If you're feeling stuck in your permaculture journey and you don't know where to go from here, this video is for you. I'm currently in Denver and I just received an email from a past student who finished their permaculture design course, was super excited to get started on designing and implementing their property, only to have spent the last year kind of hitting a bunch of blockades and feeling quite disparaged and potentially even a bit emotionally drained. And they reached out for some advice and some coaching because they kind of admitted that they were contemplating stopping their journey, which is really sad. I think this is common and something I see quite a bit, and it's even something that I went through in my early days as I was working towards becoming a permaculture designer. And so today I want to share some of the ups and downs so that you know that you're not alone. And it's really just part of the journey towards becoming a permaculture designer, and there really is light at the end of the tunnel. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you're interested in what we do, make sure you check out our links in the show notes down below. Now on with the video. People get super excited about permaculture when they first learn about it because it offers a possibility to produce your own food, generate your own energy, collect your own rainwater, and surround yourself with like-minded individuals that form a community that create resilience in spite of all the craziness that exists within the world. We see people from cities, urbanites that want to move into the country or convert their home into an urban homestead. We see acreage owners wanting to completely redesign their acreage to produce everything that they could possibly need and be self-reliant in any number of situations. And we see farmers that want to transition their farm to a more regenerative future for themselves or for future loved ones. But then they start diving into the research and it all comes to a halt when they realize there is just an enormous amount of information that's difficult to sift through. Let's be honest, there's universes upon universes of information out there on permaculture and more going up all the time. The average person doesn't have the ability to differentiate signal and noise because you'd literally have to try thousands of experiments and spend tens of thousands of dollars to see if each and every single one of these things would work out. In fact, for me, I actually had to travel to Australia. I spent 6 months with various mentors and on different farms trying to understand permaculture in a much deeper sense. I had to spend years of my life and tens of thousands of dollars traveling around the world looking at other people's solutions to try and figure out what actually works and what doesn't. But the reality is that most people don't have this time or financial resource, and so they literally get stuck in their journey in a state of paralysis, not really knowing what step to take next. The fastest way to deal with this overwhelm is the right information and a community of practitioners to go through this with you. And the fastest way to get both of those things is to take a permaculture design course. When I first took my permaculture design course, it completely transformed my career. I quit a high-paying oil and gas job to pursue regenerating planet Earth because I was so inspired by it. And so this is where it's really important to have a guide, somebody that can help distinguish signal and noise, an engineer, a farmer, a permaculture designer in your corner that can guide you to make sure that you're not wasting time or money and you're getting as close to this goal as you possibly can as quickly as you can get there. A permaculture design course gives you all the tools, resources, and maps, and it actually sets you up to see the world through a completely new set of lenses, a hopeful one. You're able to understand systems and how humans fit within those systems. And while a permaculture design course is a fantastic place to start, it's just the very beginning of the journey. After finishing my first permaculture design course, I left the program with enormous amounts of inspiration, and I kept in contact with my fellow course mates. But I started to realize months after the program that they were completely overwhelmed. And it took me a while to realize that they didn't have the maps that I had from my previous career in project management and engineering. And while I felt like I had my next steps, the students that I had taken this course with were completely lost and felt that their project was way bigger than they ever imagined. And this is when I realized that the permaculture design course was a great place to get inspired, to give you information, to reframe the state of the world, but it didn't have the nuts and bolts, the steps and the processes to be able to help people to break their project down into smaller, bite-sized pieces that they could manage. This is when I realized that we needed to build a program that followed up after the permaculture design course so that other people that are dealing with similar road bumps along the way had the ability to work through these projects to save piles of money, lots of time, and get through their design and implementation as quickly as they can so they could get to the end state and start enjoying their property. My insight after my first permaculture design course was there was another step missing after the PDC to help address some of the overwhelm that I was seeing in my fellow students. And so we created a 5-step process to scaffold on top of the permaculture design course to help people to work through the overwhelm and create manageable chunk size initiatives and steps that they could take in order to achieve the property of their dreams. So the first step in the process is clarify your values and vision, which is essentially setting your goals. Number 2 is you need to diagnose your property for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is really understanding what your property wants to be if it's left to its own devices. Number 3 is design the property of your dreams. So once you understand what your property wants to be, then we can go ahead and use permaculture to actually design it. And then step 4 is implement your design. And step 5 is then monitor your design to determine whether or not you've made good or bad decisions so that you can then pivot and continue to improve your property over time. Without following these 5 steps, you may find yourself burning out, wanting to quit, or running out of money because you've skipped certain steps along the process. So one of my students was working on a project and she came up with the most incredible design. She had the resources, she had the tools, and the skills to actually execute on her design. But she was getting stuck on something and it took her a while to figure out that the piece that was preventing her from moving forward was actually having the buy-in from her partner. Her partner was basically putting his feet down. And the reason was that she had not spent enough time making sure that her and her partner were on the same page. And so she actually had to go back to step 1 to make sure that both of them had taken the time to clarify both of their values and visions, their goals, in order to make sure they were on the same page. And then from there, the design just kind of unfolded naturally. Another common pattern that I notice is that they get straight into design and they don't spend enough time on the diagnosis part. And so what's really interesting about following this 5-step process is that 90% of your time is actually going to be in clarifying your values and vision, your goals, and in diagnosing your property. Because if we think about what a good design actually is, a design that works with nature instead of against it, it's kind of like a Venn diagram. And so when you're thinking about your goals, you're really diagnosing what you want. The diagnosis of your land is really understanding what it wants to be. And then your resources are how much financial capital, how much, like what machines do you have? Do your neighbors have resources you can use? What are all the forms of capital that you can bring into this system? And if you spend enough time kind of diagnosing those 3 things, you get a really clear picture in the middle of what your design actually has to be. So the design is actually the smallest part of the 5-step process because it's an emergent property of doing a proper diagnosis. So I really encourage our students to spend a lot of time really diving into this part because everything just kind of rolls out on the back end of that. So step 5 is monitor. And we have to assume that we've missed little bits along the way, or maybe we've done things that are not completely optimal. And so monitoring sets us up to be able to observe the work that we've done, the implementation, the design, and look for ways that we can continue to improve on the design as we actually go out and use it. So does the design that we've implemented create soil erosion? Are we getting plants that aren't as nutrient dense as we want? Are our animals not happy where we've placed them? Are our solar collectors not getting as much sun as we hoped they did? Or maybe our greenhouse is overheating and we need to think through how to make that more effective. And so we're just preempting ourselves to look for things that are not optimal. So we can go back to the first stage, which is clarify your values and vision, and then diagnose, and go through that whole design arc again and continue to optimize and make things better over time. We give all of this to you in our Advanced Permaculture Planning and Design course, which is the logical next step after a PDC. This program gives you access to a mentor so that as you're going through your design, you can check your thinking with somebody who's been through this process before. A community to hold you accountable, and all the information that you need in order to make good decisions on your design. If you're struggling with where to start, maybe you're stuck in the middle or your partner's not on the same page, I know that this program is going to help you to solve all of those plus other barriers so that you can move forward and make the perfect property and do it in a way that's not stressful, isn't going to waste your time, and is going to be very, very efficient with your financial resources. Once you've completed this course, you are now activated. You have hope. You're no longer burned out. You've got the tools, resources, mentorship, and a community to keep moving forward with your project. This allows you to build, tweak, and learn all the way along your path. No matter if you're an urbanite, farmer, aspiring professional, the time that you've invested in learning is never wasted. In fact, it just continues to exponentially build on the quality of your property, and ultimately, if you're doing this for others, theirs as well. Permaculture is a lifelong journey, and this is why Verge provides you with all of the resources that you need to continue to specialize and increase the depth of your knowledge in any of the domains that permaculture covers. So whether you want to dive into rainwater harvesting, passive solar greenhouses, food forest design, or broadacre earthworks, we've got you covered. This journey starts with hope that we can repair our damaged world, which inspires people to seek information that they can then put into an actionable plan, which culminates in a deep sense of optimism for the future of our world as well as their property. This is why hope, knowledge, and a plan has been a long time saying within our organization. We know how hard it is to move through permaculture without a guide, which is why we've spent the last decade building these tools, resources, and frameworks to keep you moving along your path. So whether you need hope, knowledge, a plan, or deep expertise to keep you moving along, we've got you covered. Check the links out in the show notes down below for more information. A final note to the student that inspired this video: don't give up. I've been there, we've all been there, and the effort is absolutely worth it. So take a breath, build a plan, and keep on trucking. I guarantee you're going to end up with the property of your dreams. Good luck.